We now have the pleasure of being joined by Les Johns. He is the publisher of Demon Deacon Digest, the 24/7 sports affiliate for Wake Forest. Les, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Ben and Johnny.
Thanks so much for coming. It's been quite the start to the year for Wake, now 12-3 on the season. How has Wake had so much more success early this year than maybe they did last year?
Well, there's a handful of things, really, Ben. It's one, it's a brand new team. There's only three players that returned from last season. Second-year coach Steve Forbes really completely turned over the roster. And I guess secondly, and they kind of go together, they've largely avoided a COVID shutdown. Last year, they had a 33-day shutdown where they lost essentially their entire non-conference schedule. They played like two games early, and then were shut down until after Christmas, after New Year, really. So they lost the entire non-conference schedule. As we all know, the ACC is a bit of a meat grinder at times, and not only did they have to face that tougher competition, they never had a chance to kind of get their feet underneath them through a non-conference schedule. So they lost several opportunities for easier wins and a chance to gain confidence and to kind of learn what they're doing together under a first-year coach. Also, all the COVID restrictions and everything that they went through that first year under Steve Forbes didn't really give him a real good sense of evaluating the talent level on the team. And some of that upheaval on the roster that would typically happen under a first-year head coach didn't really happen until after that first year. So that's why you saw so many people come in via the transfer portal and a couple players from the international market. And like I said, it's just really a brand new team. He brought in a couple of players, Alondis Williams from Oklahoma and Jake LaRavia from Indiana State, who's playing big roles in this team. And obviously they weren't around last year. So it's a new team. They've had a chance to kind of gel both on and off the court, and they're playing really good basketball right now.
Les, Wake already doubling up how many wins they had last year, 6-16, already 12 wins on the year this year. How much of that do you attribute to the head coaching and Steve Forbes? Is there anything that, stylistically he does that really takes this program in a different direction than previous coaches like Manning or anyone else?
Well, not only do they have twice the number of wins of last season, but this team has one more win already than three entire seasons under Danny Manning. Danny Manning in three of his seasons finished exactly 11-20, which is kind of hard to do, even if you try to finish with exactly the same record. But there we are. There's a lot of things he does. One, Forbes has been a winner at every level that he's coached. He's been on the bench at Tennessee, when they had great level of success. He was on the bench at Wichita State, in which they had an undefeated record. He's won as a head coach at the junior college level. And then his last season at East Tennessee State, that team went 30-4, won the Southern Conference championship, and was headed to the NCAA, the one that never happened. So, he's a winner at every level of basketball. There's very little doubt that he's going to get Wake Forest back to what, Wake Forest was, let's just say back in the 90s under Dave Odom. It's going to be a championship level basketball program. And Forbes is not only a good coach in terms of teaching the players and leading them on the court, he's also a very fun guy off the court. He holds them accountable on the court, then gives them a lot of love off the court. And he's a guy that the fans have really impressed with his gregarious personality. He's self-deprecating and fun and just fun to deal with from a media perspective. He's got a big, vibrant personality, and fans are really latching onto that. So he's kind of like the perfect fit at Wake Forest right now for those who kind of long for the days of Dave Odom and Skip Prosser.
You mentioned that he used the transfer portal a ton this year, which is expected when a new coach comes in. But is the transfer portal a big part of the sell on Forbes? Is he someone who's expected to maybe go there a lot in the future, or was this more of a one-time thing?
Yes. It's more the massive upheaval is more of a one-time thing, right? Because once again, the upheaval, the big changeover in roster that you would expect under a new coach was postponed a bit because of everything all of us were going through, during that first, few months of the COVID experience in the United States. But the transfer portal is here to stay, right? It's not going away. There's going to be, changes in the roster. There's going to be people come and go. And I think that every year, he's going to have to, jump in there and get, 1 to 2 pieces, 1 to 3 pieces every year. I don't think it's going to be one of those things where there's going to be 9 new players every season, though, so I think last year was kind of an anomaly, heading into this year, but it's still going to be an integral part of what he does for sure. And it's going to be maybe a little bit easier for him from here on out when other players can see the success of guys like Alondas Williams, who was, leading the ACC in scoring, and Jake LaRavia, who's shown himself to be a legitimate professional prospect. When they see those guys can come in and make a big impact under Steve Forbes, it kind of makes Wake Forest a little bit more attractive.
Williams certainly leading the charge. I mean, he's already had 3 30-plus point games. And this is a guy who comes over from Oklahoma and didn't really start a single game for the Sooners in February and March. So what has sort of enabled him to hit the ground running so much, and what makes his game so good?
Well, Steve Forbes saw someone that can have the ball in his hand and make really good decisions, and loves more than his scoring. I mean, you talk about the 30-point games. Forbes loves his passing ability and his ability to get his teammates involved in the game. He was in the top 5 in the conference in assists too, which is kind of a strange, tandem to be leading the league in scoring and also one of the top assist guys in the league as well. But it's his passing, his ability to facilitate for others, his unselfishness. He's the only the second player in Wake Forest history, second player ever to hit a triple-double, with the other guy being Tim Duncan. So, he's in pretty big territory there. But yeah, it's his unselfishness, his ability to get to the basket, his vision, court awareness. He's just a great teammate, and his the players around love playing with him.
When Williams is passing the ball, it's often going to LaRavia or guys like Davian Williamson. How do those two complement what Williams is trying to do?
What's really interesting is that Jake LaRavia and Alondas Williams have formed this like great bond. I mean, Alondas is nicknamed to everybody as Man. It's something that came from his like grandmother. But then Alondas calls Jake LaRavia Larry Bird often because, LaRavia came from Indiana State. He's a 6'9" guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything, but they have an incredible connection. They will find each other, cutting to the basket and pass each other the ball through really tight windows. It's like they always know where each other is. It's really a lot of fun to watch those two guys play together. Another guy you didn't mention is Isaiah Musius, who's had kind of a breakout season for Wake Forest. In the game against Charlotte down at the Spectrum Center, Alondas had a 34-point game, was just 2 points away from tying his career high. All of a sudden, it's a tie game in the waning seconds, and Williams drives to the basket in the waning seconds. The defense collapses around him, and he finds Musius wide open on the wing. But so instead of going in and trying to force things for himself, he kicks it out to Musius, who hits the game-winning 3. That's just the kind of player Williams is. And Davian can create for himself or hit the big shot on the outside too. This is his second year in the program and his 4th season with Coach Forbes, having transferred over from East Tennessee State. So he's been a key piece as well.
So if there is one guy then, Les, that you pinpoint outside Williams, who you especially think can take advantage of a Syracuse zone that has been pretty bad this year, who is that one guy? Is there one guy? Is it going to be more of a collective kind of effort?
You're telling me a Syracuse zone isn't elite this season? That's hard to fathom. It's weird is Wake Wake's offense is successful by moving the ball. It's a 5-out motion offense. Everybody touches the ball. Everybody shares the ball. If you look at the advanced analytics, they are excellent against man-to-man, but they're just like average against the zone. So, I'm wondering how they succeed Saturday against the highly touted, Syracuse zone. But I think the guy that kind of will stir the drink Saturday will be Jake Laravia. He's likely to be posted up in the middle of that zone, and they'll want to get him the ball and let him make decisions as to where it goes from there. So Jake Laravia is the guy that I would watch Saturday in terms of how successful Wake Forest will be against handling that Syracuse zone defense.
On the Syracuse side, for all the local fans listening for us, what's the Wake Forest weakness that maybe either on offense or defense Syracuse can try to exploit?
I would say that zone defense, like I said, that if you look at the advanced analytics, Wake doesn't perform as well against the zone defense. And if Syracuse forces Wake to take more shots behind the arc and doesn't allow them to penetrate in the middle of that zone, and Wake happens to have a cold shooting day, then that can be something Syracuse can really take advantage of. Those games in which Wake doesn't drive the basketball, doesn't force things into the paint, and don't get to the free throw line, they're susceptible to, are you shooting hot or not? And if the shot isn't falling, it could be a long day for Wake Forest. And this is a game that could go down to the wire. But if Wake is able to penetrate in that defense, get some looks in the paint, make the defense collapse and make decisions and leave guys open, then Wake could win the game, fairly handily. So that's kind of the key, is getting to the paint, making the defense rotate around, move around, and make decisions.
So Les, obviously Williams an X factor for Wake. You mentioned Laravia, a guy that can really exploit the zone. From a Syracuse standpoint, is there one guy that can really put SU over the hump against the Demon Deacons, whether it's a Buddy Boeheim, a Jesse Edwards down low? Who's that one guy that you think could be maybe a matchup nightmare, or just someone that is capable of causing some problems for the Wake defense?
Well, I kind of like Cole Swinder. I mean, I like his versatility and the fact that he can do some damage in the paint, right? But then also step out. Wake has some guys like that too, in terms of like Dallas Walton and Kadeem C. But I think Swinder seems a little bit more consistent to me in terms of being dangerous behind the arc. I think that's a guy I would probably look to be the X factor, as you said, for Syracuse. If he has a big day, it could be problems. Buddy is so prolific behind the arc. I mean, when he gets hot, he gets hot. So that's always someone you've got to check and got to make sure you're attached to. And those are the guys I would kind of be looking at.
Once we get off with you, we're going to discuss this from the Syracuse side less. From the Wake side, how important is winning this game? Is it just another ACC game, or because, the losing 2 out of 3 stretches, or, playing against the zone? Is there anything more significant for Wake Forest about this Syracuse game?
Well, Coach Forbes was asked before the game earlier this week if the Deacs were desperate after losing a couple on the road, and he kind of chafed at that notion. But I do think it's an important game, right? Because Wake started off the season with 3 straight road games because they lost having the BC game because BC was in COVID protocols. So starting off with 3 straight on the road was kind of a tough start for the Deacs. After winning at Virginia Tech early in the year, they lost 2 straight on the road. So, of course, they like getting off to the win earlier this week and beat the pants off FSU by like 20 points. So I think it's a big game in terms of, next Wednesday they have, one of the top teams in the country, Duke, coming in. And then after that, they go back on the road for a couple games. So, if you lose this game to Syracuse, all of a sudden you're sitting, under 500 again. You mentally, it's a tough road to beat out, Duke at home, and then a couple more road games. All of a sudden, you could be sitting like 2-6 in the conference and thinking you've got a pretty good team. So yeah, it's an important game for Wake Forest. Coach Forbes certainly wouldn't want me to say that they're desperate, however, because he obviously wasn't happy with that verbiage. But it's an important game for sure. I mean, I think it's going to be a good Saturday afternoon crowd. They're trying to build some momentum here in terms of letting the fan base know that, hey, this program's good. You need to get back out and support them, because it's a fan base that was kind of beaten down for a decade plus of Jeff Buzdillik and Danny Manning, and they're not used to seeing winning fun basketball anymore. But this is a new team, a new atmosphere, and a new coach, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and I think they're going to win some games.
Well, Wake is trying to avoid going below 500 in the ACC. Syracuse is looking to avoid going 500 overall. Les, thanks so much for coming on and previewing the Orange and Demon Deacons matchup with us.
Thanks for having me on, Ben and Johnny. I appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic day and a great weekend.
Thanks, Les. You too.